Hey guys, so I just had my Sheiko skills assessment today. As you can see, I'm 93 kilos and I did 3 attempts on each lift. I did not put the video of the first or second attempt up, but I did upload my 3rd attempts on each lift. And here are the numbers, and then here's the video. That I hit death from.
Where's the
Easy.
I can't see it.
Right there, good, beautiful.
I didn't know. Go, go, go.
Hey guys, so I just finished a 4-week cycle of Sheiko CMS. I really enjoyed the training. It was brutal, which I enjoy, and I'm really enjoying focusing on the big 3 because I have some powerlifting comps coming up this year. Only downside of the last 4 weeks of training was I had a slight scare with my hamstring. I felt some shifting right around the origin where I tore my hamstring about 3.5 years ago, but turned out having no pain, no negative effects. I was able to lift heavy. It really was just some scar tissue shifting around, but it did influenced me to kind of drop the loads a little bit on my deadlifts for about a week and do some ramping up on the next squat workout to make sure it wasn't too heavy. But, you know, I think that might have been part of the reason I didn't do as well on deadlifts, but it was very glad that I didn't actually tear anything. So, as you saw, I just did a skills assessment, and the reason I call it a skills assessment is because part of the skill of powerlifter is the 3 attempts and not getting more than that. So I didn't just keep testing until I hit a new PR. I think I did a good job with my squat, and on my bench and deadlift, I think I was just a tad overzealous. I would guess I had like a 137.5 on bench and a 245 on deadlifts today, which would have both been PRs, but I just went a little heavier and missed them. Second attempts were cake. I was just a bit shy on my thirds. So I'm actually pretty happy. If I had just been a little less overzealous, I think I would have hit some PRs and gotten a 15 total pound PR on my total. So I'd say it taught me to be more conservative. So what is Sheiko, to kind of back up and give you guys a little bit more background information? Sheiko is a system of training that was created by and named after Boris Sheiko, pretty famous in the small circle of powerlifting, Russian coach, and it's essentially an approach to competitive powerlifting that's very similar to Olympic lifting, in that the lifts are trained frequently and not necessarily incredibly heavy all the time to develop not just the characteristic of physical strength, but also the skill of being able to develop strength. So the idea there is that we're trying to get better at a sport, not just get stronger. Of course, that is a big part of powerlifting as well. So anyway, the volume, the intensity, and the frequency are the big piece of any program, and they need to be balanced. And Sheiko is one where you have a high volume, being that the workouts take a long time. You're doing a lot of lifts with the big 3. The frequency is high, meaning you're training 3 or more times per week. Most of them are 3 times a week, and all that sounds low. You have to remember that you're doing big, heavy compound, not necessarily heavy, but lots of compound lifts on each day. So it's kind of like full body 3 times a week. The intensity is relatively low because you're training with weights that you could probably do 3, 4, 5 more reps on for most of the time. So you're getting a lot of practice with the lifts. So anyway, Sheiko is something that competitive powerlifters should be doing, and I'd say it doesn't have a whole lot of place in a lot of other programming unless you're really trying to get better at the big three. It can be modified, and I think for a bodybuilder like myself who also competes in powerlifting, it can be easily modified just by throwing in some physique work, which is what I did with it, and that's something you guys can try. If you do want to try Sheiko, I would advise starting with Sheiko 29 or 37. These are the numbered programs. To qualify for Sheiko CMS, you probably want a total that is roughly around a master qualification, which is right around where I am. And then you should be able to handle all the loads and the volume, unless you train very low volume, low frequency normally, or if you just know you're not the type of person who can handle high volume, which is some people. So anyway, essentially Sheiko CMS, what is that? Well, it specifically is a high volume, high frequency, low intensity program. You come in and you're going to do 2 main lifts plus accessories per workout, and normally the workout's going to take 1.5 to 2.5 hours. The frequency is also high, and CMS you're doing 4 times a week, essentially full body. And then the intensity is relatively low, most work being between 60 to 70% of 1 RM, with some warm-ups and sets in the 50 to 60% range, and some occasional high-rep stuff on bench with it to build workload capacity, and then also some heavier lifts that are 75 to 85% of 1 RM. So the actual setup of these workouts that take 1.5 to 2.5 hours is you'll come in and the first workout is squat, bench, squat plus accessories. Day 2 is deadlift, bench, deadlift plus accessories. Day 3 is bench, squat, bench, and the final day is deadlift plus press accessories. Things like dips, behind the neck press, incline press, and sometimes normal bench press. The volume is very high. Even alternating lifts, but not resting much at all, it took me about 90 to 110 minutes, just a little over an hour and a half most days to complete the workout. And that was pretty much moving the whole time. Of course, not training lifts that would fatigue one another back to back, but doing things like, rows in between my sets of squats or pull downs in between my sets of bench press. I did modify the accessory work. I kept in the good mornings and the press and tricep accessory stuff, but I did throw in some vertical and horizontal rowing, bicep curls, and calf raises to maintain my physique. So anyway, it was a very high volume program, and it was something that I was prepared for, having done a relatively high volume strength hypertrophy 5-3-1 hybrid beforehand. So let's talk about the pros. The pros are that I got a lot of time with the lifts to get good at them. I got very good at hitting lifts with focus and intention under fatigue, So I built a very good workload capacity. My lifts did go up, even though my skills assessment didn't go as well as I'd liked. I did quite well, and I definitely am in a place where I can hit PRs. So it was good for me to see that I'm still making progress, even though I've been in the game almost 9 years, pretty seriously lifting. So main things are increased workload capacity. Like if you ran a Sheiko program, and even if you didn't see big increases, you could then probably run a high intensity program that's lower volume and kick some ass with it. So it can set you up down the line for big PRs. I got a lot of skill with my big three, and I got very good at hitting them even under fatigue. So, being able to do 3 lifts in one day shouldn't be a problem for me. And I saw some progress as an advanced lifter. My PR on the squats was up by about 4 pounds, and I think had the deadlift gone a little better, my hamstring not scared me, I probably could have got a 5 or 10 pound PR there as well. And my bench right now is probably right around the best it's been at this body weight. I have hit a 325, but I was like 220 pounds, so still doing pretty well there, and I think there's some things I can do to do it better next time. As far as the cons, anything over 85% of 1 RM after a Sheiko thing is going to feel pretty heavy. So one thing I might add in is just some heavy walkouts. When I put the 192 on my back, it felt a little heavy, which was actually quite light for me, and I stood up with it very quick. And then when I did my 207, it felt pretty damn heavy, and it was quite easy. And as you guys saw, even the 215, which was probably pretty close to my 1 RM, maybe a little under, I stood up with it pretty quick. I didn't have any issues with it, but it definitely intimidated me going into it, and I kind of had to get that out of my head. So what I'll probably do is add in some heavy walkouts. Another thing to consider is that because the volume is so high and you're always training under fatigue, you don't know what your actual max is or if you're making progress. There were days where probably my 1RM on squats was like 415 or 420, or just right around for you, the guys who do it in kilos, like 195. So at most. So, unless you have a really good body awareness, you're not going to know what your true max is or if you're making progress until you taper and test like I just did. Also for me, I'm not sure this is true for everybody, since I have a really tough time making progress on my upper body and on bench, I have to have a pretty high volume. And to get stronger, I have to have a high volume and train at a high percentage of 1RM. I found that benching was just too easy. So you might want to consider, if you have a similar predicament as me, just doing Sheiko as normal, but increasing your 1 rep max that you're using to program off of by a good bit. I used a 140. It's a program, which was probably, on a really good day, probably where my 1RM is, but I think next time I'm going to run it with 150, even though I didn't hit 140, just so that I can train with a higher percentage of 1 rep max, because it was never hard benching on this program. I had days where I had a really tough time hitting the reps on squats and deads. I still did it, but bench was always a breeze, even with doing it sometimes 4 times a week. So that is kind of the cons there, and the pros. So, as far as what the future holds in store for me, I've got 3 comps coming up this year. In April, I'm going to be doing the Auckland unequipped lifting meet. I'm not sure if that's a division or an actual comp by itself, and that will qualify me, as long as I finish with a total, to do the New Zealand Nationals Unequipped Championships. So I'll be competing there. I really like the organization here. You sign a drug testing waiver and pay for it and all this stuff, so people actually get popped in the off season and have to pee. And they have an unequipped division now. This is an arm of the IPF, so they're trying to get admitted into the Olympics and really take the sport seriously. So the drug testing is pretty legit. The judging's really good. You won't see high squats in the IPF. And I love that they have an unequipped class now. So April I'll be doing Auckland. August, so long as I finish my comp in April, I'll be doing Nationals. And then if I do well enough at Nationals, that'll qualify me for the Oceania Championships, which are going to be in New Zealand for the first time in a while in Auckland. And that's basically like all like the Commonwealth countries are invited, but probably it's going to be mostly the Southern Hemisphere countries. Like a lot of the Australian lifters are going to come out and probably do really well. They're very strong over there. It'll be just an honor to qualify and compete with guys who are getting well over elite totals, and I'm probably, just getting around a master total, which is, good, but it's not like really good like these guys are. So it'll be cool just to be on the same platform as some of these guys. So that's what's going on for me. The Sheiko really went well for me. The only downside was that little scare with the hamstring. It turned out to be fine, and I think had I been able to maintain all of the loads for the deadlift, I probably would have maybe hit a PR there, and I think if I go a little heavier on bench for the next cycle, might hit a PR there as well, and I think some heavy walkouts, and then I'll probably even do better on the squats. So I'm going to run it again, just modify the things a little bit. And like I said, for you guys, if you're new to Sheiko, you probably definitely want to run either 29 first and then maybe 37. There's some good information out there if you guys Google Sheiko. There's a lot of numbered programs. Don't just jump into Sheiko CMS unless you're used to heavy volume on the big 3 and your total is pretty close to master. And yeah, so that's Sheiko CMS, and this has been my little review of that program and how well I did based on the skills assessment. Thanks.